but it's very exhibitionistic also. Do you censor yourself?
Well, I don't pursue certain songs that sound like songs that I've already written. You know, like with Dig Lazarus Dig, I started to write that. It took 3 months to write, and the first 2 months were pretty much sitting at the piano and going, this is nice, you know. And then go, oh no, hang on, this just sounds like something off Boatman's Call, in the bin. You know, and eventually I thought, I can't, you know, I got rid of the piano altogether because I just couldn't, all I could write were tortured, melancholic ballads. And I didn't want to do that. You know, I want to, you know, this is my 14th album. I want to do other things. So it took a long time to find out exactly what I wanted, what the kind of voice of this next record was. But because this next record is very personal, it's very much about my preoccupations with things. It's just not kind of case specific. I mean, in the sense that it's not. There's no point kind of dismantling this record and trying to find out, you know, how I'm feeling this year.
Yeah.
You know, it's a waste of time. And that's a huge relief for me in some way. This kind of, the Dig Lazarus Dig record really feels to me like this kind of wild thing that's come out of the imagination.
You've written essays on love songs, or you've given lectures on love songs.
I have, yes.
So you're an authority.
There's a lot of people who give lectures that aren't really authorities.
Okay, that's true. But you've written songs also, so I can say you're an authority. Anyways, what to you the best love songs? The ones that you write while you're in a love relationship, or the ones that you write while you're longing for one?
You know, it's really a craft. It's really about being able to sit down and having the ability to write whatever you want to write. You know, what I'm trying to say is I don't feel that what actually happens in my life to me affects very much what I write. In the sense that I don't write stuff because I'm in a particular mood. I get up in the morning and I go into my office where I write and I work, and I'm not looking at my emotions. I'm a worker, and I don't want to have to be sitting around waiting for some kind of horrendous thing to happen in my life so I can get a record out, you know. I'm often writing at odds with what's actually going on in my life rather than documenting what's actually going on. I'm writing about what I need. Yeah. What I need. So that something like Into My Arms, which is any way you look at it, a very kind of beautiful love song, was written in a period of great, where I was, in great upheaval and sick as a dog, and and hardly able to sort of, and it was very much came out of a need for something, a need for some sort of kindness or whatever in a exceptionally kind of chaotic period. Yeah. And I think that this can also work the other way around, where life can just be kind of cruising along, and I'm going into the office and I'm just fucking going, nuts, with what I'm writing about.
Yes, Nick, you like to lurk about in churches, soaking up the atmosphere and obviously getting reacquainted with various bits of the Bible. Do you have any favourites to lurk about in?
Churches, the Brompton Oratory is my favourite church.
Yes.
It's in London.
Yes.
I haven't been to any churches here.
No. And how did you arrive at the Brompton Oratory? Was it by trial and error, or was that one of the first you walked into and enjoyed it so much you revisited it regularly?
I actually tested out a lot of churches, and in the meantime, while doing that, became so disillusioned by what I was hearing, I kind of gave it all up.
Nick, do you find the pressures on smokers these days makes it a bit harder to get through certain circumstances? And that being the case, have you got a durry on you?
I do.
Well, I tell you what, it's unusual to see people smoking on television these days. So
I smoke Irish cigarettes.
Oh, Irish cigarettes, sure.
Major.
Yeah, do you want to have one?
I'll have one, yeah. Would you like one?
Oh, why not? One in all in?
You gonna have one?
No, I'll pass. Go on. I mightn't light it, but I'll use it as a prop.
They're good for you. It says here. It says smoking is very good for you.
Yes,
they
every
improve your health.
New Year's I make a resolution to take up smoking and go down and buy a carton of something at the local store. And after a couple of days, I have to give it away. I don't know why. I just can't stick with it.
No.
But thanks for this.
When do you have your first durry of a morning? Nick,
going.
No, I'll give it a go. When do you first light up? Was it before you have a cup of coffee, or do you have a packet beside the bed?
Well, it depends. I light up all through the night, actually. I smoke about every 2 hours.
Can you smoke while you're asleep?
No, I wake up especially to have a cigarette.
To have a cigarette?
I do, yeah.
Bloody hell, that's committed. Now, you've always been interested in art, and in fact, painting was going to be the one for you, and not music. I think
I wanted to.
If I'm wrong here, I think you felt an imposter in the world of music, and I don't know whether that's because you felt you wanted to be a painter first. But what sort of daubings were you interested in? More your Francis Bacon sort of grotesque imagery, or what?
Well, it was my art teacher. The reason why I failed was that my art teacher decided my art was sleazy. She said she could not relate to sleazy art.
Yes.
And I kind of went about painting sleazier and sleazier pictures, and they failed me.
Now, when you say sleazy, what do you mean? What do you mean by sleazy? Blokes with snot coming out of them?
That's not sleazy.
No, there's someone with a knife in them, or
no, that's not sleazy. The last painting I did was of a muscle man. And a ballerina. The ballerina was bending over, and the muscle man was looking at the ballerina's dress, and there was a kind of a dot.
Yeah.
It wasn't very good.
To her private parts.
To her
now,
fundament.
Right. What seems to be a recurring theme in your music is one of enormous disappointment, disenchantment, and disillusionment. Was that the same for? Is that why you wanted sleaze? It was disillusionment as well.
I was young.
Yes.
I was young and was interested in ballerinas' fundaments.
So you saw yourself as the muscle man with the ...
Yeah, exactly. And as I grew older, I grew wiser and sadder and more disillusioned.
Disillusioned after you saw the ballerina's gear, or you were expecting something else?
Do you want me to answer that?
Well, I suppose. I mean, if you know, part of the thrust of life in those days was to cop a geek, so to speak, and then you copped a geek and left art.
But I begin on another tack. You're one of the few people, I think, who are right in saying who, when they turned 40, more or less cheered. You don't mind being 40. Why?
I've always felt old, actually. I've always felt, as a young man, old. And the older I get, the more
easier it becomes. Yeah. It's fair to say, you know, for most people, you've trodden the rougher side of the road. Do you think there is an evil or a sense of evil about, or, you know, that you encounter in your travels on the other side of the street?
I do, yeah. I think there's
and how does that express itself?
I personally think that we're born innocent, and that life makes us evil.
Is everybody able to be as evil as each other?
I think we all have the capacity for evil, and we all have the capacity for extreme evil, and we all have the capacity for goodness as well. And, you know, one would hope.
But evil
do our best to be decent human beings, and you know, that would.
But evil lurks very much under the surface. This veneer of socialisation we have is very, very thin, very thin gossamer, is it not? I mean, you've only got to look at Kosovo to appreciate that evil can break out at the drop of a hat, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And is that the evil that not so much interests you, but that you dwell upon? Is that what causes this melancholy?
My melancholy comes from other things. It has nothing to do with evil.
No.
I think that we all have a melancholy side. I think that society actually has a problem with sadness. They don't like sadness. They try to cure sadness. They have therapy to cure sadness, and I actually don't think that sadness is necessarily a bad thing. I think that it's something that's an essential part of our character, particularly an artistic character.
Yeah, well, certain cultures celebrate sadness. I notice at the moment you're living in Ireland. Well, certainly the Irish love nothing more than a wake.
They do.
They're dancing in the streets when somebody dies. Is that what you mean, a celebration of sadness?
I think that they have an understanding of that side of their nature and are happy to express it.
You're an artist who's happy to talk about the muse. The muse, you know, I take it in the artistic sense of visiting the artist and helping the artist with their work. You know, and you're quite protective of this thing that you describe as a muse. How does that operate?
That was the nicest cigarette I've ever had.
Terrific, yes.
That I could actually have it on a TV programme and all.
Yes. Well, you don't see smokes being smoked on the Des O'Connor show, for example.
But to answer your question, actually I forgot what it was.
It was about the muse.
The muse to me is something that needs to be looked after and honoured, and I think that your creative talents can abandon you if you abuse them.
Now, have you had any experience of doing something which, you know, for want of a better term, the muse objected to? Or
yeah, I have actually. There's one thing that haunts me to this day is that I agreed to write a song for the Batman film, and someone rang up and said, would you write a song for the Batman film? And I thought, my muse said, don't do it. But I thought, I went ahead and did it and made an incredible amount of money and wrote the song in about, I don't know, 25 seconds or something like that.
Yes.
And made a huge amount of money for doing it, and because the record went platinum in America. But I've always felt, that's always troubled me, actually. I always feel I have to pay for that in some way. I'm not quite sure how.
Well, I notice it may be dissimilar, I don't know, but Brett Whiteley always worried about the muse leaving him. It was one of the great sources of distress in his life. Is that a fear that you have, that you can wake up one day and it's extinguished, whatever the wellspring might be?
It used to be a fear. I used to live permanently. I mean, I used to look at other rock musicians and see the inevitable thing that happens with them, with so many of them. But I think that if you do the very things we were talking about before, if you look after this, you're with it. You're a talented person. There's no reason why it should abandon you. I think what a lot of people do is that they feel that they have to remain young, and I think that this is the great pitfall, particularly in what I'm doing, is to kind of chase after youth. And ultimately you're going to lose, and everything's going to go horribly wrong.
Whereas certainly early music of yours seemed to me to be far more aggressive than the music is now. Is that a natural thing as one does get older, as you grow into your age, that melancholy may well replace anger?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the great Oscar Wilde said something about that. He said that you can't receive grace in a state of rebellion, and I would say that the creative process is a pursuit of grace in some way. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would be trying to do.
I noticed there was a quote in one of the pop magazines here in the United Kingdom that described you as the negative of Engelbert Humperdinck. Have you ever thought of maybe doing a duet with someone of Engelbert's ilk?
There would be people of his ilk that I perhaps would consider. Tom Jones, perhaps, who I've always been a fan of, but I've never liked Engelbert. I always thought he was kind of wet.
Yes, well, a bucket of water, really, with trousers.
You're quite taken by Barry White's gear, though.
I love Barry White. Yeah. Barry White's, he's got it.
He uses sex, Barry White, doesn't he?
He's a very, very sexy man. Yeah, I think he makes some of the sexiest music I've ever heard.